Today, Wednesday is Yudalid Iyar, which is Pesach Sheni. I would like to discuss some of the dinim, the halachas of Pesach Sheni, and how is Pesach Sheni different than Pesach of last month of the regular Pesach. The parsha of Pesach Sheni is the parsha in Ba'aloischa and Ba'midbar. The pasuk says, "Daber b'nei Yisrael leimor, ish kiyeh tamei lenefesh." Somebody was tamei and he wasn't able to bring the korban Pesach. Oy b'derech rechoika, he wasn't close enough to the Beis Hamikdash to be able to bring the korban Pesach. V'asa Pesach l'Hashem b'chodesh hasheni b'arba'asa yoyim. The person should bring he has another chance to bring a korban Pesach b'chodesh hasheni, which is in the year b'arba'asa yoyim bein arba'im, the 14th day. Yaso oisai al matzos imroim rechlu. So you have to bring the korban Pesach, and you should eat the korban Pesach together with matzah and maror. That's the makor for the din of Pesach Sheni, that a person has another chance, and he can bring, even if you couldn't bring the korban Pesach on the regular Pesach Rishon, he can bring the Pesach Sheni. The Mishnah in Pesachim, Daf Tzaddik Hey, the Mishnah says, Ma bein Pesach Rishon l'Sheni. What's the difference between the first Pesach and the second Pesach? Harishon, the first Pesach is Aser B'Bal Yirah B'Al Yimatzeh. We all know the first Pesach, a person has to clean out his house and make sure that no chametz is found. He's Issa B'Al Yirah B'Al Yimatzeh. V'Sheni chametz u'matzeh imoy b'bayis. The second Pesach, Pesach Sheni, today, when the person brings a korban Pesach, as well as at night when he eats the korban Pesach, he's allowed to have chametz in the house together with chametz u'matzah imoy b'bayis. He's allowed to have chametz together with him. He's always B'Al Yirah B'Al Yimatzeh. Then the Mishnah says, "Vaiter lagabi halal," and then these are din v'nechel tzli. You have to roast the korban Pesach, the Pesach that's brought today, just like the Pesach of Pesach Rishon. Al matzah muroirim, it's eaten together with matzah mora, and it's doicha Shabbos. So we see a very clear din that there's a chiluk between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni, a person's allowed to have in his house chametz, as opposed to the regular Pesach. You're not allowed to have chametz. He's Issa B'Al Yirah B'Al Yimatzeh. What is the halacha, the next step? While the person's eating the korban Pesach, could you eat the korban Pesach with chametz? Of course you're allowed to have chametz in your house. That's undisputable. It's a mishnah that you're allowed to have chametz. Are you allowed to eat it with chametz? In other words, you want to put it in a sandwich, in a club sandwich, in a lafa, a chametz lafa. Are you allowed to eat the meat of the korban Pesach together with chametz?
No.
Why not? It's what? So technically, I would think the pashtus really that you should be able to. If the Torah says there's no B'Al Yirah B'Al Yimatzeh, so why should there be a Isser Achilas?
Doesn't mean you can't.
So good, you have to eat it. And Mamela what?
So you want doubles. What if you want doubles? You have doubles. You have matzah, and then you have it with the sandwich.
Korban Pesach has to be to the mitzvah.
1 second. So I was up to B'Shil Moiridik. That l'chayr. 1 second. You're gonna tell me? Forget about chametz. Never mind chametz. You can't eat anything with the Pesach because it's asi. Whatever the rishos of a mitzvah. Yeah. So for that, I'll tell you, 1 second, the Yiddish Shaila, I'll tell you why you can't eat chametz. Typically, even if it's not chametz, even if it's a Pesach lafa or something, it's asi rishus of the thing you're eating with it, a bavatal mitzvah. So on that, the answer is that the chiyuv of korban Pesach is only a kezayis, and it's ala soiva the last kezayis. So I'm not asking about that last kezayis. That's for sure. You can't eat anything with it because asir rishusum avatal mitzvah. But how about all along? You're eating a whole meal, Pesach Sheni by night, tonight, Tezvav tonight. While you're eating the meal, all along, you want to eat it with a sandwich. You want to eat it with something else. Again, the last kezayis, which is the mitzvah midiraisa to eat korban Pesach, that you're going to eat without chametz, without anything, because it's asir rishusum avatal mitzvah, which means you're not allowed to eat it with anything else. Right, just like Pesach by night, even if you like to eat matzah with mayonnaise, when it comes the kazayas matzah, you're not allowed to eat anything because it's asin Yerushalayim avatal mitzvah. So the last gezayis of the Karm Pesach, that's for sure. A person's not gonna eat it with anything else. So it'll be mavatal. But what's about the whole meal? He's eating the meat. Could he eat it with chametz?
Is there allowed in the Torah about Pesach Sheni you can't eat chametz? Or is there allowed?
Oh, so.
It says by Pesach Sheni lo yochel chametz and by Pesach.
Oh, so zok the menchas chinuch.
It says the
No,
whole.
Rabbi Yitzchak is saying, and that's what the Minchas Chinuch says, you don't find anywhere these are Isser, so why should it be Aser? Pasha loy matzinu. That's Dr. Rabbi Yitzchak, you don't find anywhere that there should be an Isser. So Mela, it's not Aser. Why should it be Aser? Pesach Rishon, these are Isser Bal Yurah, these are Isser Achilas Chametz, Pesach Sheni, there's no Isser, so you can eat with Chametz. He brings, however, Rashi on the Torah. Rashi says, the Lashon HaRashi, on the parsha we just said about Loischa of Pesach Sheni, Rashi says, Pesach Sheni chametz u'matzah imoy babayis. You're allowed to have it together. Ve'ein shem yomtiv, there's no din yomtiv. Ve'ein iser chametz, there is no iser chametz, only when is there iser chametz? Elo imoy b'achilasai. While you're eating the Karm Pesach, you're not allowed to eat chametz with it. So Minchas Chinuch says, I'm showing you, Rashi says that you're not allowed to eat chametz together with the Karm Pesach. But he says, Dover zet temua etzli ma'oid. Why should it be aser? Lamaisa loy matzinu, that the Torah says that you're not allowed to eat chametz. So why can't you eat chametz together with the Karm Pesach? This is Dr. Rashi.
If you hold to Tashlumin, could be Rashi holds that's felt in the Tashlumin.
So we'll see what we'll see soon what the makar.
Tashlumin of something with chametz.
However, this Rashi Lamaisa, we'll handle Rabbi Yitzchak a little later, the Tashlumin. I want to first get also to the Meshech Chachma. However, this Rashi that we see clearly, that Rashi says, the Ein Isser Ela Ima B'Achilasoi, which means B'Achilasoi it is Aser. Dr. Shach and Avi Ezri, I also hold that it's mutter, but I don't see where you see in Rashi that it's Aser. Adarabba, Rashi says, the Ein Isser Ela Ima B'Achilasoi, you're allowed to eat it together with the chametz. Again, the Ein Isser, Lashon Rashi ala Torah, the Ein Isser, chametz, Ela ima b'achilasi, which means ima b'achilasi, you're allowed to eat it together. So the Mela says, it says of Shach and Avi Esri that you're allowed to eat it together.
It sounds like a drush.
Yeah, there's a machlokes which way to sing it. That's the Minchas Chinuch says Ela ima is where it's aser. How to word the Rashi?
Hold on a second.
It seems like you're not allowed.
What'd you say?
It seems like you're not allowed.
No, Ela imay b'achilasei, the way he learns is Ela imay, that you are allowed. Ela imay b'achilasei, that imay b'achilasei, you're allowed to eat the chametz. You're allowed to eat the chametz with the Karm Pesach. So everybody agrees. Minchas Chinuch says it should be mutter, and Avi Ezri says it should be mutter. The shaila is how to learn a Rashi, how to understand if Rashi's saying it's mutter or it's aser. I just want to say the Meshech Chachma. So the shaila is, Rashi says that it's aser. And the question is, where should it be aser? Rabbi Yitzchak pointed out, you want to show me where the Torah says in the parasha, Isser Chametz? We read the psukim of Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni doesn't say anything about Chametz. It just says that he's din to bring a Karm Pesach. So the Meshech Chachma says, it's Lav Haba Machlal Asei. Why? Because the pasuk which we read before by Pesach Sheni, the pasuk says, what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, Lashon HaPasuk, you should bring a barba'asa yoin bein arabayim yaso oisoi al matzah simroim yechlu. You should eat the Karm Pesach together with matzah and mar. Zok the Meshech Chachma, it's a lava ba machlal asei, which means you should only eat it with matzah and mar, but not with chametz. So Meili says it's aser, and Zok the Meshech Chachma v'chein perish Rashi, our Rashi that we're speaking about here, ala Torah, that it's aser, and he learns that's the makar. It's lava ba machlal asei. The Torah says only eat the Karm Pesach together with matzah and mar, not with chametz. And he also brings a Tosefta. He brings a rye from a Tosefta. The Tosefta says Pesach Rishon is noyeg for 7 days. Pesach Sheni is only noyeg for 1 day. So the Dr. Meir Simcha, what's Pesach Rishon noyeg for 7 days that Pesach Sheni is noyeg for 1 day? Pesach Rishon is not noyeg for 7 days that he's a Haseder. Pesach Rishon is noyeg for 7 days that he's a Isser Chametz. And Pesach Sheni is noyeg 1 day that he's a Isser Chametz. So well, these are Isser Chametz, Imoy Ba'achilasa, you're not allowed to eat Chametz together with the Karm Pesach.
You could say
And
that.
Memei Mavur, just a second. Memei Mavur very clearly where the Makor would be for the Isser. I want to also just show you these Rashi in Sukkah Daf Mem Zayin. I'm not going to go into the case where the Gemara is, but the Lashon Rashi is Pesach Sheni Einoi Aser B'Chametz. Pesach Sheni is not Aser and Chametz. El Shetoyin Matzah LaMitzvah. Pesach Sheni is not Aser and Chametz. El Shetoyin Matzah LaMitzvah. V'oichel Chametz Miyad. Rashi says V'oichel Chametz Miyad. What does it mean V'oichel Chametz Miyad? Mashma, you can't eat it together. Right when you're done eating the matzah and the Karm Pesach, right afterwards you can eat chametz, which would seem also Rashi learns that these are isser to eat chametz together with the Karm Pesach.
The al-matzah samar b'chul, first of all, can mean that there's a tzira to eat it, but it doesn't say ella. And also you could say zayin yom, means you have to fear zech yontiv. Doesn't have to be
so
handling.
So the Yom Tov, I just want to tell you, there's no din Yom Tov Pesach Sheni. Even
I'm
the
saying
Mishnah
that
says
you have to fear zech 7 days of Yom Tov by Pesach Rishon. But you have to fear
Yom
zech.
Tov Lagabi what?
It's a malacha.
Yeah, but there's no Issa Malacha Pesach Sheni.
Or let's say eating matzah altogether. The guy holds as a mitzvah, whatever. Chleisvos.
Yeah, but there's also, we're going to get to that as well. There's no mitzvah to eat matzah on Pesach Sheni. We'll get to that. Lagabi, the first part, I want to elaborate a little more what you're handling on matzahs and Rome. Yeah.
Along the same lines, though, you're saying he learns a lot from the assay, but when you compare the two of them, this assay doesn't have any of the other assays that we see by Pesach Rishon. So, can't you say that the fact that he didn't say any of these things, Torah doesn't say Yontif, doesn't say Chametz, doesn't say anything when it comes to Pesach Sheni. You compare it to Pesach Rishon. Pesach Rishon has all these rules. How did you learn out the law? When you're comparing two things that are practically...
So you're saying that's why you shouldn't be allowed. It should not be Aser.
Right.
So everything else, you have a point, that everything else is no Isser. You have a good point. However, if the Torah says what you're supposed to eat it with, you're supposed to eat it with matzah and maror. So that the Torah is speaking about. If the Torah is speaking about the matzah and maror, we could say,
but in
oh,
the
not
other case where it
chametz.
tells you to eat Pesach, it tells you to eat with matzah maror, and also don't eat chametz. Over here, it's not eat with matzah maror. It doesn't say anything.
That's what you say. You see that the Torah doesn't see not to eat chametz. I hear a good point. I want to also share a different dichoy on the Meshech Chachma. Yeah.
I have three
Yitzi.
things to talk to you about. Okay, number one, the pasuk says, "Kechol chukas Pesach Yasurosa." Okay, so anything that's done Pesach Rishon is done Pesach Sheni. Pesach Rishon you can't eat with chametz. So obviously you can't eat the second one with chametz either. That's it.
Okay. That's a good shaila, but Lamaisi, you see, it's not everything kechol chukas because there's things that are different also. But okay, a good shaila, yeah.
Going back to the Achron you just said, respectfully, I have a question on that because Pesach Rishon is a 1-day holiday. Chag HaMatzos is a 7-day holiday.
Okay.
But Pesach is regarding the 14th. So Pesach Rishon, yes, it's a 1-day holiday. Chag HaMatzos is a 7-day
Getting
holiday.
here for what?
So therefore, you can't say, well, that's a 7-day kiyum. It's not. It's Pesach is on the Dalin, the Chag HaMatzos is on Tesvav to Chav.
So you're asking on the Tosefta that, what's the question?
The last one you just said, that's a 7-day holiday. It's not.
No, Pesach Rishon is 7 days and Pesach Sheni is 1 day.
Matzos is a 7-day holiday. It's a different diak, a different chiyuv. Okay. Number 3 is okay. So Pesach Rishon, you ate the chagiga together with the current Pesach. This was an Ola. It was korban of a yontif. What if Pesach Sheni is eating ala sova? What did you eat first? You didn't bring chagiga today. What did you eat first? You ate a stama dinner, chulin?
I hear. Good shaila, I hear.
My
Weiter, we're going to continue afterwards. I want to move it over here. I'm going to take a weiter. Reb Shach asks on the Meshech Chachma. I took 3 things. We're going to continue afterwards. The Reb Shach asks on Rameh Simcha on this diak of al matzos and roim yechlu, which is a diak ha chametz you're allowed to eat. Al matzos and roim yechlu ha chametz you're allowed to eat. So he says l'chayra ha chametz that's only like Hillel. Hillel hayakarach matzu mar biyachad and ate it all together. So on that you're allowed to eat it hayakarach matzu mar biyachad. So there you could say and not anything else, but not like Hillel. When the pasuk says al matzos and roim yechlu, what does it mean al matzos and roim yechlu? Al matzos and roim yechlu means that part of the mitzvah of eating korban Pesach means you should also eat matzu maror. Ba'oifen that let's say b'zman hazeh we don't have a Karban Pesach, so there's no mitzvah of matzah mar, but it doesn't mean that you have to eat it together. If it doesn't mean you have to eat it together, then you can't tell me that only this you have to eat together and not chametz. You understand? You don't have to eat it together. If you don't have to eat it together, the Torah is not saying only eat this together and don't eat chametz. The Torah is just saying that part of the mitzvah of eating Karban Pesach is also matzah mar. If you don't have the Karban Pesach, you don't have matzah mar also. But it doesn't say you have to eat it together. If you don't have to eat it together, which means the Torah is not saying you have to eat it together, you can't be medayik, only eat this together and not chametz. Just to conclude, in this topic about eating chametz or matzah together, or lekula alma, you're allowed to have chametz in your house, imoy babayis, imoy bachilasa, that's for sure, you're allowed to have chametz in your house. So the Rabbi Yaakov Emden in Haseder brings Gilui li min hashamayim. They will megala to me, what's the pshat? Why is Pesach Sheni today Yudalid? Why not Rosh Chodesh Iyar? It's interesting. You're right. It's Yudalid. What does it have to be 30 days later? What's the pshat? So he says, since when they went out of Mitzrayim, besides that they ate matzah Pesach Benite, they took along matzahs kalehispek betzeka. Those matzahs lasted for 30 days, which means lasted till today, till Pesach Sheni. And then there was a transition. After they finished the matzah, started the month. So he says, to show that this day we had matzah, and then we continued on to chametz. So that's why we have imoy bachilasa, you're allowed to have with the matzah, which is eaten with the Karban Pesach, you have chametz as well. This doesn't bring one way or another Lagab if you're allowed to eat chametz with the Karban Pesach, but at least it brings out why you're allowed to have chametz. It's a good question if it was the next day and the Chassam Sofer says it only was 3 days later. Good, but that's what he says, why on that day it stopped. He's saying l'chayr the mon only came the next day, or maybe even it came 3 days later, I don't know, maybe it came the same day that they finished. That's what he says. He says, Kol Sacharora Shaitziyum of Mitzrayim, the next happened till Yodalid, and the next day, he himself says, Lo Mocher Helinu, and then these chametz. So I guess we have matzah, because we have matzah, we still had matzah, and then we also have chametz to show, because the next day started chametz. The truth is, Leil Tezvav already is Tezvav.
Why not Rosh Chodesh? I'm sorry.
With this you can add to the minute why you eat matzah taki.
We'll get to the minute in a minute about the achilas matzah, if we could. What?
Were people naig back then to make a Karban Pesach even if they didn't have to, like we do now with the matzah?
No.
It was only somebody who missed it.
For sure did.
It was only
Only if you missed it.
I guarantee you, if the Chassidim were around, they shafted a Karban Pesach.
Atkan we spoke about eating the I want to talk again to what everybody is speaking about about eating matzah. Atkan we spoke about all shilas afterwards. Now, please, Atkan we spoke about not eating chametz or yes eating chametz together with the Karban Pesach. Is there a mitzvah to eat matzah Pesach Sheni? Let's even stay focused first to eat matzah bizman beis hamikdash kaim when we brought a Karban Pesach. Is there a mitzvah to eat matzah? Or what the Torah means is when you do the mitzvah and a Torah of Karban Pesach, you should also eat maror and matzah and maror. Just for understanding, Pesach Rishon, our Pesach, there is no mitzvah of maror midiraisa because maror is just with the Karban Pesach. We eat maror, we have a mitzvah midirabanan, we make a bracha, but midiraisa, the maror is only with the Karban Pesach. So is matzah also a mitzvah only with the Karban Pesach? So let me share with you one or two nice things that show to be poished if there's a mitzvah.
Typically,
The Mishnah in Pesachim, Arvei Pesachim, the Mishnah says, Arvei Pesachim samach l'chashecha, a person shouldn't eat. He shouldn't eat matzah. Why? Lo yochel at shetachshach. Why shouldn't he eat at shetachshach? Because you should eat l'teyavin. It'll be achila gasa, but what's the problem? Why should you eat l'teyavin? What's the l'teyavin that you should eat? The achilas matzah. You have a mitzvah, Leil, Pesach, to eat matzah, so you should eat that matzah l'teyavin, and therefore a person, Erev Pesach, is not allowed to sit down to a meal. He shouldn't be full. Tosfos asks a question. The name of the parak is Arvei Pesachim, and the headline, the first word in the Mishnah is Erev Pesachim. So Tosfos asks, Arvei Pesachim, I understand, they're both plural, Lashon Rabbim, Arvei Pesachim, the Erevs of the Pesachs. But what's Erev Pesachim? The Erev of Pesachs, what's the understanding? Tosfos says one teretz, and Tosfos says a second teretz, Inami, Erev Pesachim, Erev of both Pesachims, Erev of the first Pesach, and Erev of the second Pesach. In other words, the halacha in the Mishnah is applicable for both Pesachs. Pesach Rishon, that you shouldn't eat Erev Pesach, and Pesach Sheni also, a person shouldn't eat Erev Pesach, which means today, this afternoon, you shouldn't eat, but Achetechsach to eat L'Teyavan. That's what Tosfos explains. The Svasemis asks over there on Tosfos, I don't understand. Pesach Rishon, there's a din of Achilas Matzah, so therefore there's a din to eat a Matzah L'Teyavan. Pesach Sheni, there's no mitzvah to eat Matzah. There's no mitzvah to eat anything L'Teyavan. There's a mitzvah Achilas Karam Pesach, which happens to be just the opposite. You eat a L'Teyav, you're supposed to eat a La Soiva. So how do you understand Tosfos' second teretz? Lo yochel achetechshach, you have to eat it a La Soiva. I mean, I'm sorry, you have to eat it, it should be L'Teyavan. There's no mitzvah Achilas Matzah. The same is also Mavur. There is a famous Shaila asked by Koirach. When we do Koirach, we say L'Kayim on Masha Nemar, Al Matzah and Royim Yechlu. Al Matzah and Royim Yechlu, to eat it together, a sandwich, the matzah, Pesach matzah mar together. The question is, we're sitting now by the Seder, the first Pesach, and why do we bring a pasuk from Pesach Sheni? Al Matzah and Royim Yechlu is Pesach Sheni. Pesach Rishon, the pasuk is Umatzos al Meroyim Yechlu, not the pasuk al Matzos Meroyim, Umatzos al Meroyim Yechlu. So why we're bringing the pasuk of Pesach Sheni when we're sitting by Pesach Rishon eating koirach? We should bring the pasuk of Pesach Rishon. So one teretz is brought from one of the Belzer Rebbes that the reason why we say this pasuk is a tefillah and a bakasha that b'mheirish yibana Beis Hamikdash, and if the Beis Hamikdash will be built after Pesach, Halamoy will be built, we'll be able to bring the Pesach Sheni. So Memela we're davening that we should be able to bring a Pesach Sheni, and by Pesach Sheni it's taka al matzah simroim yachlu. That's all being maspal. I'm going to leave it out for now, but it's a big shmooze. If, let's say, most of Klal Yisrael couldn't bring a Pesach for whatever reason, so then Pesach Sheni wasn't said. So technically, we wouldn't bring a Pesach Sheni. Me'idach, there's a talk that if there was no Beis Hamikdash, there's a Meshech Chachma, that's when the Beis Hamikdash was built, maybe we would bring a Pesach Sheni, and maybe even not only bring a Pesach Sheni, the whole Pesach would be noyeg. But that's one pshat that he says that we're davening that there should be a Pesach Sheni to bring a carbon. That's one pshat. The Chassam Sofer, when the Chassam Sofer asked this question, the Chassam Sofer says, and there's a difference between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni in the Psukim. The Chassam Sofer also says the teretz, but I want to just bring out from the Chassam Sofer the idea that you know why the Torah changes the Lashon HaPasuk between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni? Pesach Rishon it says Al Matzos Umroirim Yechlu, and Pesach Sheni it says Umatzos. I'm sorry, Pesach Rishon. It says Umatzos Al Meroirim Yechlu. The Al is in between, and by Pesach Sheni it says Al Matzos Meroirim Yechlu. Says the Chassam Sofer, what's the difference? Why does the Torah change where the Al is? Pesach Rishon Umatzos because it's a separate mitzvah of eating matzah. So umatzos al meroirim, only the moror is a tafel. Mashenke Pesach Sheni, it's al matzos and meroirim, the side the matzah, and side the moror is only brought together with the carbon Pesach. It doesn't have a mitzvah for itself. Pesach Rishon is a mitzvah to eat matzah. Pesach Sheni there is no mitzvah to eat matzah. There's a mitzvah to eat it with the carbon Pesach, but no mitzvah by itself. He answers the question why we bring the pasuk to show that it's not mevatel. We're going to leave that on the side for now. He answers the question why we say by koirach the pasuk of Pesach Sheni. But he says there's no mitzvah of achilas matzah. So it comes out from here that the mitzvah of achilas matzah midairaisa, the mitzvah is only a mitzvah on Pesach Rishon, and there's no mitzvah on Pesach Sheni. So you might all ask me, so if that's the case, why do we eat matzah Pesach Sheni? We want to do some sort of zecher to Pesach to Pesach Sheni. Obviously, the Karban Pesach we don't have. So the zecher is the matzah that we ate together. The matzah that we ate together with the Karban Pesach, but not like it's the mitzvah of matzah. Therefore,
It's like Afikoini.
it's
He
brought-
applies to Zich Kol Pesach.
What taste? What do you mean?
But Afikoini.
you're saying
One
even
of
the
the
matzah.
One of the Kazaisim are
Rashi
taking.
steht, the mitzvahs matters after.
You're saying 1 second. You're
But
saying.
the second Kazayis is the Zich of the Kol Pesach. Why do you two Kazaisim?
So you're saying therefore could be even the achilas kezayis is the achilas matzah is achila zecher to the achila of the afikar. Me'idoch, you're saying not only that we eat the matzah zecher to the matzah we ate with the Karban Pesach, zecher to the achilas Karban Pesach alein, but just these many, most if not even maybe all eat the matzah today, not tonight. Why do you eat the matzah today, not tonight? Especially like Rabbi is saying that the achila would be achila zecha to the achilas Karban Pesach. When did we eat the Karban Pesach or Pesach Sheni? Tonight, Leil Tezvav, not today. So it's brought that the reason many bring that's a reason in the Paiskim not to be toya that if we would eat matzah tonight, people would be tired that we're eating matzah because he's a mitzvah achilas matzah, just like Leil Tezvav of Pesach Rishon. He's a mitzvah achilas matzah. Therefore, we move back the achilas matzah to Pesach Rishon. That's a reason. Some say that you don't eat it because of. I heard last night from one of the Chavrei the night call. He said that because it'll be a Baal Tosef. I didn't see it inside. Why it would be Baal Tosef? It's a different Yom Tov. I mean, it's later. It's not together. But this would be a reason, even if we're noyik to eat matzah, whether if it's zeicha to that matzah or zeicha to achilas Karban Afi Pesach, of the Karban Pesach, we eat it today, not tonight, because lamaisa not to be toyed that he's a mitzvah. That's for sure. Not he's no mitzvah. And b'meila, that's why we eat it today. So to sum up, we had first of all Karban Pesach. For sure, you can have chametz, and these are machloikis if you're allowed to eat it together with chametz. And we also spoke about that in the mitzvahs matzah, there is no mitzvahs matzah, Pesach Sheni. May we still be zoicha to have and bring the Karban Pesach, if it's shaykh,
Can you eat
today.
so could you eat